Hello everybody. Today I'm going to do something that I don't normally show people because I am by no means an expert, but I figured I would at least show you guys what I do when I resin. And the only thing I really resin for the most part is usually my magnets. I have done some a stone before, but I'm not that good at it. I watch like Rachel's rocks and the way she does it, because she does so many and she's so good at it. But I am by no means an expert at this. So here we go. Now I got this art resin because that's what everybody recommends, and it doesn't really smell bad at all, so you can do this in the house. And all you have to do is get equal parts of resin and hardener together. So I just use this tablespoon and I measure it into that and put it in a plastic cup here. And you don't need tons of this. I've got a whole bunch of stuff sitting here that I can resin. And I'm using just a tablespoon of each resin and hardener. And it is particular about being even, so you gotta kind of really be careful and get it all out as best you can. Okay, I'll let that sit there a second, because I like to get these caps in right away. They come with these, move it into the screen more, with these caps, and I always make sure to get them right back in there. Seal it back up again. I don't know how this stuff reacts, if it would dry out if you don't put the cap back in or not. So I just always make sure I get them right back in there. Okay, so then I'm going to scrape all this hardener out of here. And I use plastic gloves because it makes a mess. I mean, you can't do this without having gloves on or something to protect yourself. And I do it over the top of this placemat all the time, so I don't get any on my counters or anything like that. And I just get as much off as I can. And then I have baby wipes that I leave on my desk, and I just wipe it out with that. Wipe it as good as I can with one, and then I get another one and wipe it better. And then it doesn't dry on there. Okay. So that's clean for the next time. Now this, the instructions say to like mix it for, I think it's 3 minutes. I do watch, I make sure I do between 3 and 5 minutes. And it'll form these air bubbles in there. And it's supposed to, because that means it's getting blended together right. Okay, now according to Rachel, you let this sit for 10 minutes before you use it. So I'm just going to let it sit there. I'll put a link to Rachel's channel in my description too, because if it were not for her, I wouldn't even remotely know how to resin. So you guys can go watch her videos. She's an expert at it. So in the meantime, while that's sitting for a few minutes, I'll show you what I'm going to resin. And when I resin, I smear it on, and I just set it on this mat, because she says that if you you want to set it on a surface that you want it to show like. So if you put it on a dull surface, it's going to be dull. If you put it on a shiny surface, it's going to be shiny. And this, although it looks dull, is a very slick placemat. It looks kind of crappy because I've resined on it so much I might need to get a new one. But I made these are magnets. These are just from, a paint palette. I put the extra Ultra Cal in, and then I painted them. I got a bunch of those over here that I'm going to do. And the backs aren't fantastic. They're a little bit, see, they should be painted better, but this is just going to be kind of my trial run for doing these. And then I've got these two stones that I painted that I'm just going to try and resin too. And that, because I've only really done one, and although this one I really like, I don't mind if it screws up. I'll get it, make another one. And that, so now what I did in the past with this is I just put it in my gloves. I just take my hand and I grab some like this, and I try and keep it, I shouldn't have set those there, over the cup because it's going to drip everywhere. And then I just smear it all over it, and it'll get all over both gloves. And just smear it, because you want to coat it, but you don't want it too thick, because if it's too thick, then when it sits, it forms like a ridge, and then your bottom looks bad. So just put like a thin coating over it. Mix it all over it. Make sure the whole thing's covered. And then set it on the surface that you want it to be like. And I think I got green on that one, which I'm not thrilled with. I don't know if the green came off of the other one or what. But so you don't need a lot. You just need it to be shiny looking. It doesn't take much. My gloves are still pretty covered in it. I probably could have gotten a lot more stuff to resin out. But that's all I do. And then I don't let it sit. If you let it sit 24 hours, it's pretty well firmed up. And then, so I try and at like the 12-hour mark, 10 to 12-hour mark, I move them off of the, not off the plastic completely, but move them to a different location in the plastic. Because if you can see on my mat here, this circle looking, see that? That's where my rock that I did do stuck to, because I let it sit there too long and I didn't move it. So you want it to dry almost completely, but not completely. I don't know how else to say it. And then shift it before it's completely dried so it doesn't adhere to whatever it's sitting on. So it's now 4 o'clock. So by like, bedtime, if I stay up to midnight, I could probably move them to, just shift them to a different location on the mat. And I'm gonna this video won't be coming out till tomorrow because I'm going to wait until they're dry and then I'll finish recording and show you how they turned out. And that one. Okay, and now I'm going to do this rock, which I'm going to do the same way. I need to get more on my hands. And this is how I did my other one. I just smeared it all over. Make sure it's completely covered. And this is self-leveling, so once you set it down, as long as it's on a flat surface, if you do have a little extra, it'll flatten out. I'm going to set that one there. And then I got this one. And I painted these last night. I let them dry 24 hours at least before I do this, because I'd be afraid it would smear all over the place. Okay, I'm going to set that here because I don't want it to get on that ridge that I had. Now, Rachel uses the straw and she blows the bubbles. I don't do that because I've tried to do that and it doesn't work for me. I've got this torch and I just go over them very quickly like that. And then hopefully it gets the air bubbles out. And then I won't touch these for at least 10 to 12 hours. I'll let them sit here and dry. And then I'll shift them to a different place on the mat. So I'll be back and I'll record that later this evening. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay, this is how they turned out. The tops are real nice. The bottom's stuck. So, and these aren't so bad. These stuck a little bit. See, but I'm going to put a magnet on the back of that, so that doesn't really matter. What I'm going to do is sand these down and repaint them, and then try and apply more. So I'll be back in a bit. Okay, I sanded this one. I got kind of dug in on this side. I have an electric sander, so it didn't do so great a job. But I'm going to repaint this, and then I'm going to reapply the resin and see what this turns out like before I do this one. I decided to go ahead and do both. This one, I didn't get it sanded as good, but we'll see how it comes out. This one's pretty good. I think once I put the new coat on it, you won't be able to tell, but there might be a line there. So I'll come back and show you when I'm done. Okay, here's the results of what I did. Now these are the magnets, and see how they stuck. The fronts look fine. There's no problem, and so I'm just going to leave them. I'm not going to redo them. I glued the big magnets on the bottom, and I don't think that they're terrible. Now I sanded this down again, reapplied some paint, and then put resin over the top. And this one I'm happy with. It's a little drippy, but it's not awful. See it there? But the whole thing is smooth and shiny, which is nice. Now this one, on the other hand, well, it was drying. I got a couple hairs on it. See that? So now this one I'm going to have to re-sand again and reapply. This is why I don't do resin so much, because I really have a hard time with it. But I did resin the inside of this dish too, and that turned out okay. So that's how I do resin. I know it's not a great result, but I figure the only way you get better is with practice. So I figured I would show you guys the mistakes that can be made and how you go about fixing them. So I will talk to you all tomorrow. Bye.